Shalom, and thank you for watching this video from HaDerekh Synagogue. I hope you are liking the content we are bringing you. If you could like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, that will greatly help us. And to further help bring great content to you from our teachers, if you could please consider to donate to HaDerekh Synagogue. The link is in the description box below. Thank you for watching.
Okay, every controversy that is pursued in a heavenly cause is destined to be perpetuated. And that which is not pursued in a heavenly cause is not destined to be perpetuated. Which can be considered a controversy pursued in a heavenly cause? This is the controversy between Hillel and Shammai. And that not pursued in a heavenly cause, that is the controversy of Korach and his congregation. That comes from Pirkei Avos 5, Mishnah 17. So, here's plan A. The firstborn are to be the kahuna, which would be the leaders of the Mishkan service. And that would be the leaders then would be the Bechorim, the firstborn. Would it be Aaron and his descendants? Sounds good until we remember that his two eldest sons died. So who would be the first of the Bechoros? Reuben? Who else? This would create an elite, the Bechor, who inherits not only a double portion, which is monetary power. They would also be the Nesiim of their tribe, which would be a political power. And they perform the avoda, which is spiritual power. So that's taken all the forms of power and putting it into one location. So what happened? Three things. The inheritance speech of Yaakov related to to two sons, and the Egel HaZahav, which is the sin of the golden calf. Reuven's improper behavior, back in the book of Bereshit, was a political move to extend his authority over his brothers as the intended recipient of the kingship when Yaakov died. We see identical behavior in Avshalom, the son of David HaMelech. In response, Yaakov gave the future Melech to Yehuda and the Bechor to Yosef. He split it up. He excluded Reuven from both. Shimon and Levi took a bad situation and made it worse. They transformed the legally permissible deed of justice against a man who raped their sister and transformed it into vengeance against a whole city-state. They killed everybody. As Yaakov said shortly before his death, the two are brethren, weapons of violence, their kinship. Let my nafshi, let my soul not come into their counsel. Let my glory not be united with their assembly. For in their anger they slew men, and in their self-will they hobbled oxen. Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I will divide them in Yaakov and scatter them in Israel. And that's exactly what happened. Before the Hate HaEgel, Shemos 13, 12 to 16 says, you shall set apart to Hashem all that first opens the womb. All the firstborn of your animals that are males shall be the Lord's. Every firstborn of man among your sons you shall redeem. For when Paro stubbornly refused to let us go, Hashem killed all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of animals. After the Hate HaEgel, Hashem performed a Tamura and substituted the firstborn for Shevet Levi. In Bamidbar 3, 11 to 13, Hashem declares, look, I have taken the Levium from among the Israelim in place of their Bechor. The Levium belong to me, for all the Bechoros are mine. On the day I struck down every Bechor in the land of Egypt, I sanctified to myself every Bechor, every firstborn in Israel, both man and beast. They are mine, I am Hashem. With this acquisition, the duties once set aside for the firstborn are transferred to Levi. This Tamura transferred the duties of the kahuna and the support staff from the firstborn who were blemished by idolatry and transferred it to the group who were not involved. Shevet Levi. The Bechoros are still Hashem's, so the Kedusha of that chosenness is not fully removed has dictated in Hilchos Timurah. This is why we must perform Pidyon Haben even to this day. All this is said to get to this series of Pesukim. Now Korah, ben Ischar, ben Kohat, ben Levi, with Dasan and Aviram, b'nai Eliav, and On, ben Peles. They are b'nai Reuben. They're the sons of Reuben. They took men and they rose up in the face of Moshe with certain of the children of Israel, 250 men. They were princes of the congregation, the elect men of the assembly, men of renown, and they assembled themselves together against Moshe and against Aaron. So who are the players? Korah is one of them, Dasan and Aviram, and On, all b'nai Reuben. An unknown number of men who went with Korah. We have no idea how many there are. But there's also 250 men on top of that. And they were the princes of the congregation, the elect men of the assembly, men of renown. It was a time of rebellion. The question is, what is the end game? There's always an end game. Follow the money, one person says. What do they want to achieve? Do each of these groups have the same result in mind? But this is what they say to Moshe. Actually, I think it's more Korah who says this than any of the other groups. You take too much upon you, seeing all the congregation are holy, every one of them, and Hashem is among them. Wherefore then, why then, do you lift yourself up above the assembly of Hashem? That was the Art Scroll version from like a long time ago. So, the 250 men. As the narrative continues, it's clear these gentlemen desired to have their religious authority that was stripped from them. They are the ones who take their fire pans and put fire in them and laid incense upon them and stood at the door of the tent of meeting with Moshe and Aaron. They want to return to serving as they did during the incident with the golden calf and in the way that the Levi have been assigned since the golden calf. Their end is one of the more dramatic points in Torah. And it says, and a fire came forth from Hashem and devoured the 250 men who were offering incense. That comes from later on in the first chapter. Malbim suggests the 250 men contended that they should be accorded the priesthood. They were against conferring a hereditary title on a tribe, but asserted that individual prestige and distinction should be considered. Ibn Ezra, on the other hand, suggests these 250 men were in actuality firstborn who considered the priesthood their natural privilege. The other group is the men who came up with Korah. These men are a hidden group, but they're hidden in plain sight. Moshe Rabbeinu mentions them when he says, "Hear now, B'nai Levi, is it but a small thing to you that the God of Israel has separated you from the congregation to bring you near to him, to do the service of the Mishkan of Hashem, and to stand before the congregation to administer to them that he has brought you near, and all your brethren, B'nai Levi, with you, and you seek the priesthood as well?" They are rebelling because they want the priesthood. It's clear. They want the ability to lead the service in place of Aaron and his sons. Dasan and Aviram, or Datan, and On, B'nai Reuven. These men represent the firstborn of Yaakov. It appears these men are petitioning for a reimagining of the importance of the firstborn tribe as opposed to the firstborn of each family. On, however, is mentioned once and then disappears. And if you want to study that one, there's several passages in the Midrash. It's a great story. I'm not going to get into it today. Maybe next year. It appears they want leadership. Any leadership than Moshe. This is based on the following Pesukim. And Moshe sent to call Dasan and Aviram, the sons of Eliav, and they said, "We will not come up. Is it a small thing that you have brought us up out of a land flowing with milk and honey? to kill us in the wilderness, but you must also make yourself a prince over us. It reminds me of the never-Trumpers who would vote for a rutabaga than vote for Mr. Trump. Same thing happens on the other side of the aisle too. They disparaged the land and they called Mitzrayim a land flowing with milk and honey. Korach, he is the most interesting of all the characters. That's why I saved him for last. The Maharal of Prague says that the fight between good and evil requires the sides to be balanced. To keep things even, God lifted up leaders like Moshe and Aharon, but he also chose equally compelling characters, antagonists. Herein walks Korah. His retort to Moshe Rabbeinu begins the rebellion against the Hashem's hand-picked leadership. To Moshe he says, "You take too much upon yourself, seeing all of the congregation are holy, every one of them. And Hashem is among them. Why then lift up yourself above the assembly of Hashem?" So let me ask you something. Is anything that Korah said was true? Okay, well, let's discover it. Let's see if any of it was true. You take too much upon yourself. Truth is, Moshe never wanted this job. How many times does Moshe try to convince him to choose anybody else? Who am I that I should go to Paro and that I should bring Bnei out of Mitzrayim, he says. "O Lord, I am not a man of words," he says elsewhere. "Not recently, nor in the past, nor since have I spoken to your servants, for I am slow of speech and slow of tongue." I can tell you that specifically he's speaking of being able to speak the Hebrew language, not that he had marbles in his mouth or he had a stuttering problem. And then finally he says, "O Lord, send whomever you will send." Not me. Another thing that Korah says is, "Seeing all of the congregation are holy, every one of them." This is another lie. If all the people are kadosh, then no one is kadosh. The logic here is, imagine everyone being set apart. Sounds great until you ask, from what are they set apart? There's nothing left to be separated from. And that's bad English. Sorry, Ronnie. We are too imperfect, set in our ways, selfish, and jealous. Third point is, Hashem is among them. When Hashem is among us, what happens? We die because we are too imperfect, set in our ways, selfish, and jealous. Moshe used to take a tent and pitch it outside the camp, some distance away, calling it the tent of meeting. Ochel HaMoed in Hebrew. Anyone inquiring of Hashem would go to the tent outside the camp. Hashem was separated so that we wouldn't die. And if you go through the text, there are 13 times where we make mistakes and we litter the ground with bodies. Fourth statement, why then lift yourself up above the assembly of Hashem? Korah here is accusing Moshe of pride, of usurping the rightful and historic hierarchy. However, the text says of Moshe, "Now the man Moshe was very humble above all men who were on the face of the earth." That comes from Bamidbar 12, 4 chapters before this event. So Korah, he was a firstborn, so he naturally gravitated to a position of authority. He was a firstborn of Kohas, but recent changes in leadership made him simply the leader of the Kohanim support staff. He became the B team. By undermining Moshe, everything Moshe brings from Sinai can be called into question. Did our father Yaakov really take the Behor from Reuven and give it to Yosef through Ephraim? Is it a ruse to support his appointment of and to give preferential treatment to Yehoshua, his student, and his eventual replacement? That's a good question. Did God really give the Mishkan service to Aharon, or did Moshe give it to his brother through nepotism? Seems a bit suspicious or a bit spurious. If 3,000 died at the incident to Egel HaZahav, why is Aaron the man who crafted the idol still alive. Bereshit is one of the 5 books of Moshe. Perhaps its historicity can be or has been redacted. Once doubt gains traction, one can ask if God really did give all those rules at Mount Sinai. Nechama Leibowitz noted that Korach and company do not say all the congregation is holy as a unit, but all the congregation are holy, every one of them, each one individually. That's a very important distinction. The assertion of individual selfish ambition outweighs their group feeling as a kingdom of priests and holy nation. They interpreted the mission of holiness, the role of chosen people with which they have been charged by God, in the sense of conferring on them superiority and privilege, rather than as constituting a call to shoulder extra duties and responsibilities. This is reminiscent of those who would suggest that belief in Mashiach makes one intrinsically holy and righteous and without sin and no longer needing to perform Torah. I'm sure you've never heard that before. Korah undermined Moshe and he undermines Torah. In doing so, he diminished Hashem in the eyes of the people. How much more so those who attribute the same effect to Moshiach? What we do doesn't matter, and merit no longer matters. That's an interesting world to live in. And for each of you who help here and help others throughout the week, well done. You are, as Nechama would suggest, are fulfilling the intent of Torah and the intent of being a holy nation. For those who don't, get off your laurels and serve your purpose. Good Shabbos.